Good afternoon. My name's Daniel Lee. I'm from the University of Tasmania. I'm in my third year of the HDR program there, and this is my presentation entitled Developing a Valid, Innovative Contemporary Methodology for a 21st Century Ethnography. Heraclitus of Ephesus stated, "Life is flux." This is often interpreted as change is the only constant. Retaining consistency of value amid development and change is an ongoing issue for people in various walks of life. Questioning and regularly reassessing what is of value is also an important process during periods of change. It can help stabilise and it can also help assimilate with the changes. This can apply to a wide variety of situations, including political issues, religious views, education, environmental concerns, and personal values. In the social sciences, it can apply to the fundamentals of epistemology and ontology. Inevitable and unavoidable change has occurred within anthropology due to, among other things, developments in technology and communication since the introduction of the internet. These changes not only influence the way anthropological studies are conducted, they also influence the foundations upon which anthropological knowledge and understanding are built. Assessment of epistemological values during this climate of technological development has also generated changes in anthropological methodologies. Maintaining epistemological values amid changing research environments has provided obstacles to methodological development, necessitating discourse on what is or is not acceptable process in anthropological methodology. This paper is presenting an autoethnographic discussion around the development of a tailored methodology for a study being conducted by researchers at the University of Tasmania. The purpose of the paper will be to address how new ethnographies can be developed to encompass inevitable change whilst retaining the epistemological values of established ethnographic practice. It is hoped that this will provide valuable discourse for future researchers conducting similar studies. The study examined contemporary popular music courses delivered by Australian tertiary institutions with a focus on pedagogical practices and curriculum content, and how these influence affiliated and broader communities of guitar players and their performance practices. The study can most simply be described at a low resolution as an ethnography. However, it can be more accurately described as a phenomeноgraphically oriented, multi-sited, online, distance, comparative ethnography. It is phenomeноgraphically oriented because the fourth research question explicitly examines the participants' perceptions. This is essentially a phenomenographic concern. It is multi-sited as the 25 courses under examination are delivered across 28 different sites throughout Australia. It is an online ethnography because I used 21st century communications technologies to conduct the research, as well as examining how the courses employed these technologies in the delivery and engagement with the surrounding communities. It was a distance ethnography as the research was conducted from my home office in the Adelaide Hills, and I employed the practices of distance ethnographers. It was a comparative ethnography as I compared the 25 courses against each other, as well as the data from different participant strata and sources against each other. Data were collected via online surveys and recorded telephone interviews of participants, as well as a third data set in the form of relevant industry documents. The data corpus was then analysed using the procedures of inductive thematic analysis as outlined by Brown and Clark, Sarantakos and Bryman. It was deemed important that before venturing into the study, the fundamental ontological and epistemological perspectives needed to be established. Robertson defined anthropology as the study and analysis of the origins and characteristics of human beings and their societies, customs and beliefs. Now, customs and beliefs are metaphysical entities that exist as a result of social activity, and they may not exist in a materialist sense. The entities investigated in the study upon which this paper is based include pedagogical practices, curriculum content, communities, and the voices of students in the global guitar industry. These entities may not exist as material realities, but they exist as real things in a metaphysical and social reality. Thus, the study adopted and must be understood from a metaphysical ontological perspective. Because online activities have created new forms of social identity and practices, societies and their customs have become increasingly difficult to define and bound in the 21st century. This has caused new ontological perspectives to emerge around what a society is. Communities may now exist entirely in virtual spaces, and people have experience of events that take place entirely in virtual realities. This has confounded traditional ontology and brought new perspectives to what experience means. There is now an overlap between the ontologies of the metaphysical and the virtual due to the existence of online experiences. Similarly, the literature examined prior to designing the study revealed developments in communication technologies have also brought about new understandings of epistemological perspectives in anthropology. Bryman's definition here of epistemology connects well to the theme of this conference. An interpretivist approach was adopted for the study. The critical point in definitions of interpretivist epistemology is the causal explanation. Postel states a symbiotic causal relationship between understanding virtual social entities and using the digital tools to gain the understanding has recently developed. Contemporary advances in ethnography via digital technologies have challenged epistemological assumptions regarding ethnographic knowledge. Acknowledging these advances and embracing recent developments in what is considered valuable types of knowledge is fundamental to 21st century anthropological research. Historically, the term distance in ethnography has implied removing the researcher from their home locale and physical immersion in a distant environment. In such cases, distance refers to the distance the researcher travels between their home and the location being studied. However, the term distance in ethnography can now refer to the distance between the researcher and the environment under investigation. Early examples of distance ethnographies which informed the design of my study include the studies of distance cultures during war and natural disaster where physical immersion was non-logistical. Distance ethnographies were employed by the US Office of Naval Research during World War II as a tool for understanding the cultures of Eastern Europe and Asian societies. Data in these studies were collected in the form of a variety of cultural products and interviews of immigrants. Postel states, I quote, "With the explosive growth of networked technologies in recent years, the remote study of social practices is once again on the agenda, only now with far greater media resources at our disposal than those available in the 1940s." End quote. He argues that there is nothing inherently inferior or illegitimate in conducting ethnographic studies remotely. Postel discusses recent developments in distance ethnography and the influence of modern telecommunications, concluding, I quote, "The overlooked practice of remote ethnography is likely to gain more visibility and methodological sophistication in the coming years." End quote. Recent developments in ethnographic methodologies have begun to embrace communication technologies as a tool, as ethnographers now often work in online environments, such as myself. Bengtsson argues for a revision of distance in the discussion surrounding ethnographic methods, stating the term space has been reconstructed by communications technologies. Postel and Pink state the traditional concepts of community, culture and networks have become what they describe as messy with contemporary digital practices. They claim in the context of ethnographic study of social media, new approaches are needed, particularly when the activities are interwoven with offline activities. My study primarily examined offline practices. However, within these practices there were some online activities that influenced both real-world and online communities, including alumni networks and online guitar communities of practice. The online-offline boundaries of the communities involved are ambiguous. The continual development and morphing of digital technologies and how they are used has impacted these types of communities. A case in point in my study was the use of social media for education institutions' guitar student networks. Offline activities of these networks included masterclasses and group sessions, while online activities included sharing of resources which were then often intended to be used during the offline events. An advantage of distance ethnography conducted using 21st century communications technology is that the study can be conducted in real time using up-to-date data. Also, group sessions with multiple participants in various locations can be conducted using these technologies and bring together distant persons to form a community experience. Distance approaches to ethnographic research have also been adopted in multi-sited ethnographies. Multi-sited research uses traditional and contemporary methodologies to gain insight on local, national and global social activities across numerous locations. The use of multi-sited research is a growing trend in social anthropological strategies. A topical example of similar recent multi-sited studies is Dawes' collection of Qatar ethnographies from Africa, the Middle East, Pacific Islands and the Americas. Social factors present in the 21st century influencing the need for multi-sited ethnographies include ease and reduced costs of transport and continual progressive development of communication technologies. Political, racial and religious diaspora have also caused social and cultural groups to be less defined by geographical constraints than ever before. The study is also examining online communities with no physical location per se. However, some of these include social media alumni pages for institutions, and therefore these online sites are linked to real-world sites. Multi-sited, distance and online research has created new developments in the foundational epistemology of ethnography. Any new developments in research methods which challenge established valid traditions will attract concern regarding legitimacy. Postel approaches concerns about distance ethnography, stating, I quote, "Yes, it is indeed legitimate to conduct anthropological fieldwork from afar. For one thing, anthropological research is a technologically plural, open endeavour. We use whatever technical means will help us gain insights into the lives and deeds of our research participants." End quote. Now, these technical means may involve using digital telecommunications to effectively diminish distance factors from the equation. Criticism of 21st century online distance ethnographies typically concentrates on the lack of traditional immersive experience in the process. Genzuk describes traditional ethnographic immersion as experiencing the environment. I quote, "The researcher shares as intimately as possible in the life and activities of the people in the observed setting. The purpose of such participation is to develop an insider's view of what is happening. This means that the researcher not only sees what is happening, but feels what it is like to be part of the group." Now, this experience can still apply to ethnographers participating in online communities. However, contemporary ethnographic approaches also now aim to develop new epistemological paths to ethnographic knowledge and understanding. These approaches embrace flexibility and adaptation, instigating the development of new methods in response to new technologies and new situations. As new methods are being developed, it is important to retain reflexive recognition of their strengths and weaknesses and of the nature of the knowledge that is produced. Gray, working from a home office in Ireland, used social media to conduct ethnographic research on large-scale social movements in Russia. Gray's research was multi-sited and distant, yet through the use of online ethnographic methods, she was able to stay in touch with events in real time. She used social media to watch live events unfold and collect data. Gray was able to observe activities in various locations and describes the experience as a temporal immersion. The immersive experience included being able to describe the weather and traffic conditions, as well as physically experiencing bodily reactions to tension during the protests unfolding on her screen. The employment of online technologies can overcome impracticalities of visiting multiple remote or otherwise challenging physical sites to gain immersive experiences. Gray discussed some ontological foundations of experience and memory making that she encountered in her study. I quote, "Social media is experienced and remembered in the body in ways that challenge the distinctions we might otherwise make between virtual and physical encounters. Such online research experiences will become increasingly inescapable, and anthropologists must find ways to incorporate them into their repertoires." End quote. She states her body created experiences that she can now recall as memories of the events built from the data. Using Gray's experience as an example, it can be argued that this immersion in the data can be regarded as equally immersive experience as being present in the field. I also experienced a sense of being there via immersion in the data. The combination of reading the survey responses, then conducting, transcribing and reading the interviews, and reading the institutional documents created a very real experience and formed what can best be described as memories of the situations. YouTube videos, social media activities and photographs of the facilities on the institution's web pages also assisted greatly in the immersive experience. Immersing oneself in the data via methods employed in inductive analysis is a development of the ethnographic immersive method designed to derive cultural understanding via a form of virtual immersion in the culture being investigated. Postel also states that previous local or field experience will assist in the immersive experience. I have personally visited 8 of the sites under investigation in the study, either before or during the research. The immersive experience was strongest while analysing data from the sources where I personally visited the institution or was most familiar with the surrounding affiliated subcultures. Ensuring reliability and validity are two concerns arising from conducting research that does not easily conform to pre-existing paradigms. Although reliability and validity are distinguishable by definition, they are less distinguishable by function, as one assumes the other. Bryman states if your method is not reliable, it is not valid. Reliability is concerned with consistency of measures, and validity is concerned with applicability of measures. Reliability and validity markers for traditional ethnographies still apply to contemporary methodologies using multi-sited online and distance practices. External reliability is the extent to which a study could be replicated to produce the same results. Replicability is a necessary factor in hard sciences where universality across time and space is assumed. However, in social sciences, the assumptions are to the contrary. Two studies of the same culture separated by time or distance are expected to return different results. Longitudinal research is often undertaken for the purpose of identifying and measuring social change. It is the aim of social science research to understand contextualised phenomena. Thus, reliability and validity are not measured by similarity of results, but similarity of methods. Therefore, if rigid and previously validated methodologies are employed, a study's results can be relied upon as a snapshot of the culture under examination at the time each study was conducted. A further method of reliability that exists in online ethnographies is routine. This involves the researcher regularly updating themselves with the current activities of the online communities being examined. Ways this can be accomplished include subscribing to relevant social media pages, blogs, vlogs, online community pages, and industry or institutional newsletters, which may be both virtual and physical. This process can also help in the immersion aspects of conducting research by granting access to content in the form of photographs and videos of community activities. Routine in distance and online ethnographic research correlates to factors of reliability listed in existing literature on traditional ethnography, including stability, consistency, and prolonged field time. Given that change is the only constant, 21st century researchers should be prepared to maintain awareness of and embrace new technologies to study the people and communities that also embrace these technologies. It is self-evidently appropriate for social science researchers to engage with social developments as a topic. It is also equally appropriate and therefore valuable for researchers to also engage with social developments as a tool. It is important for researchers to acknowledge ever-evolving communications technologies and their impact upon anthropological studies. However, constant critical analysis of the methodologies and peer review must be applied to ensure a maintenance of value of the procedures, thereby ensuring value of the results. Thanks for listening.